I wish I didn't have to talk about this. It's so old hat to be ridiculous, but I will not keep silent. I lost my job. Not one complaint about my work ethic. Not one complaint about workplace infractions. Not one complaint about me harassing other coworkers. Not one complaint about coworkers ever feeling or thinking I was racist in the 6 years I worked at transportation. I was fired because I did a 3-minute video on a woman in Cleveland that was brutalized and beaten by 6 African American people. She came out of a jazz festival. She had done nothing wrong. They claimed that somebody yelled the N-word. Well, that somebody wasn't her. And there was a debate as to actually whether that was said or not. And on the 3-minute video, I said, even if somebody said the N-word, that does not justify or rationalize assaulting somebody. We have freedom of speech. People can say things to me, and it's protected under freedom of speech. And what is sad in the United States of America is people think that it's okay to use vulgarity, lie about others, which, by the way, that is illegal. You cannot slander and libel somebody. That can be prosecuted in court, and you can lose. What do you do when racism continues to this day, but it's not directed at the people who are claiming that they're victims of racism? What do you do when we are now the victims and the targets and the accused as being privileged and racist? How do you navigate a 2026 America, the workplace, or just in general? And what has happened is many whites are silent. Many people are silent. They're afraid. They don't want to rock the boat. But we're not the ones rocking it. Case in point, I was at work Monday. Shipping clerk seemed an innocuous question, but he said, I wonder what happened to Marsh Clark and, Furman. And right away, I'm thinking to myself, why would he wonder that? I said, I have no idea. I'm 60, and they were older than me when they were in the trial. They're probably very old. And he launched into this thing saying the LAPD planted the glove. And I said, I don't believe that. I said, there was blood all over that Bronco and it matched his. I said, that crime scene was a mess, and he got in the Bronco with blood all over him. And he wanted to launch into a case. Well, he said, well, I believe OJ did it, but I believe he had accomplice. I said, I don't. I said, he had a narrow walkway. He waited up in that narrow walkway at, Nicole Brown Simpson's residence. The big man. OJ was no small little, guy. Ron Goldman wasn't big. Nicole was pushing 6 feet if she wasn't. And you got a guy wielding a knife, and he's got a lot more body strength than we do. I think he went nuts. He may not have expected them two to be out. Well, now he had to get rid of a witness. Most of America believed that OJ was a good guy. They liked him in football. Celeb status does something. It clouds judgment. And somebody's a celebrity, and we believe a lot of lies about that person. We find out that their personal life enters the media, and you're like, huh? Well, yeah, you got to understand they do have a personal life, and sometimes it doesn't line up with the media image. And most people believe OJ was a good guy. They called him the Juice, and I didn't believe it. until I heard the 911 tapes of Nicole calling and how violent he was. And violence does have a major part in the African American community. It's undeniable. Black on black violence is its own statistic. I don't need to tell it. You can check it out for yourself. But then he tried to tell me George Washington Carver was castrated. He told me that he was castrated. He was supposedly the one that invented peanut butter. I did some fact checking. He did not invent peanut butter. He'd made strides for agricultural improvements. George Washington Carver was a smart man. He contributed stuff. And you read African American publications and they claim he was castrated. And this guy in particular work told me he was castrated because they did not want him to reproduce because he was intelligent. I did not find any of that to be the case online. I found that one African American publication, I think it was called The Black Voice or The African Voice or something, said he was nearby a white female community and they didn't want him having sex with the girls. But this is what I found in AI. And you have to understand that AI is not programmed by conservative, God-fearing people. No credible historical evidence, George Washington Carver. It cuts it off, and I'm sorry for that. It is not backed up by scholars or historians at all. But guess what? The African American community, well, they didn't keep records of stuff and blah, 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 blah. So I did some reading, something that needs to be mentioned. He mentioned 400 years. I said, what are you talking about, 400 years? Slavery was not even legal in the U.S. for 400 years. What's this 400 years? And I want to say, oh, you mean the Jews were slaves of a African nation for 400 years? Is that what you mean? Nobody wants to talk about that. I don't believe Egypt was a white nation. If you looked at the pictures of pharaohs and the headdresses and the stuff that they found, some of them look pretty black to me. Facial features. They don't like to talk about that. They talk about reparations. We're going to get into that. Did they pay back the Israelites for 400 years of subjected forced slavery? No, they did not. And it's interesting to note the following African countries bought and owned slaves that happen to be black: Mauritania, Mali, Niger, Chad, Sudan, Ghana, and Nigeria. And in the U.S., slavery was only legal for 246 years, 1619, the Dutch settlements to 1865, Emancipation Proclamation. Brought to the USA by force, 388,000 to 450,000 slaves. By 1860, that had turned into 4 million. Currently, the African American population somewhere hovers around 44 million people. Why do we owe 44 million people reparations when there were at max 4 million slaves? This guy started a discussion yesterday. I don't remember how it started. I went to go get pick tickets from him. And he comes in different moods. That girl and him did not work out, and I knew that there would be a shift in that. I was very supportive of him. I said, well, I hope your movie works out. Found out that all this texting and flirting that she did, they showed up at the theater in separate vehicles, and she sat there rigid and closed into her shell. And I said, for some reason, women seem to be more comfortable online with flirting, and when they're face-to-face, I don't know. But he even admitted, well, I went on a date the next night. I said, really? He was all up into her, but he went on a date the very next night with somebody else. Don't get me started on that. Obviously, you had a backup plan somewhere. I even bought him some beef jerky one day. And I have not been racist. There was a black gal in Denver schools. Her name was Loretha. We used to hang out all the time on our break. She had come to me saying she couldn't meet her rent. I can't remember what the amount was, but I paid half her rent. I said, I'll give you this much. You don't have to pay me back. I didn't get any favors. I didn't ask for any favors. No sex, no trade-off. She didn't make me food, none of that. You know, I get tired of people saying that my race doesn't understand. We're not black, so we can't understand. That's not even right. You know, the Mormon church claims you're not a Mormon. How can you know what we believe if you're not a Mormon? So you're saying you have access to secret knowledge that we know nothing about. I call foul ball. African-American people in America, many of them go on and on about whites. They have no fear of talking crap about a race, making up allegations, making slanderous libel statements. And I have no fear and no problem of engaging in talk with African-Americans and say, hold up. But I have learned, talking to the African-American community that holds the kind of views that this gentleman at work did, you cannot have a reasonable, rational discussion. And I've already seen enough, and I've heard comments out of this guy's mouth. If he gets mad, he's going to haul off and punch somebody. And I had to tell him several times yesterday, you know, you're starting to yell. The boss comes out, I don't care. I said, well, you're going to get us in trouble. I said, you brought up this conversation, and this is not the place for this. We're here to work. You and I get along. I like you as a person. We need to drop this, okay? He started a discussion. I don't remember what kicked it off, but he said something about Asians. I said, well, I lived in Hong Kong, and I like Asian culture. And I was telling him, because he said that the Asians follow him around every time he goes into a store. I said, oh, they did that in Hong Kong. I said, I was in a store where they were selling Tibetan and Mongolian and ancient Chinese antique furnishings. We're talking handcrafted beds that scroll up and carved. These are big, expensive pieces. I mean, beautiful pieces. You're not going to be able to pick that up and walk out the store with it. Chinese lady was 2 inches behind me all the way through the store. I said, ma'am, can I help you? No, I'm just looking you. They walk around like you're going to steal things. I don't touch anything. I learned that when I lived in Hong Kong, you don't touch. And I said, well, that's kind of their culture. I don't care if it is their culture. I don't like somebody following me around thinking I'm going to steal. He said, you know how wrong the Asian community's been to the black people? I said, what have the Asians done to the black people? They own all the hair stores around here, and they make a lot of money off of us. And do they give back to the black community? I said, let me ask you something. I said, since you want to bring this up, I said, you talked about Rodney King. You brought that up the other day. You told me how wrong the cops were. I said, nobody ever said anything about what Rodney King did. Going 110 miles an hour for how long? This wasn't 5 minutes. Going the wrong way on freeways. What if he'd have taken out me or a family? Would they have rioted over that? Would the black community have rioted that some poor family lost their lives at the hand of a black man acting crazy? Mike, do you know how many people speed in their cars? I said, well, yeah, high-speed chases are common. But this guy wasn't stopping. I said, I'm not justifying the cops. They acted on their adrenaline. But I said, so answer me this. I said, did you see the video where they showed a Korean shop owner, South Central LA? They were assaulting and beating him, and a guy spray painted him in the face. What did that have to do with the black community's anger about the police? Well, Mike, you got to understand, we've had years of anger and suppressing. I said, so it's okay. I said, so if something happens in downtown Augusta, white people doing to blacks, you're going to come out and attack me in my home when I had nothing to do with it? I said, because that's what goes on every time there's a riot. I said, what that was done to that Korean man, I'd failed to mention Reginald Denny. A guy got out of his truck to help somebody who's down on the cement. They assaulted him. Yes, they actually believe it's okay. They're mad. They're mad. So it's okay to take it out on AutoZone, a church, a house, cars, police vehicles. Every time there's a riot, that was the first thing that stood up in my mind, is the African-American community often takes it out on people that had nothing to do with their issue. And my mother, for as messed up as she was, taught me this: two wrongs don't make a right. And that holds true. Even if somebody used the N-word, you do not have a right to assault them. People have called me names. They say they lie about me online. I don't have a right to assault femyas. The only time I can, physical is if somebody's endangering my life. And like it or not, people can call me names and it's not cool, but that's not a threat to my life. As much as I don't like femyas, I don't believe in assaulting the kid. I just wish he'd find somebody else to focus on, like Jesus Christ, because that's where his anger needs to be directed, is at God. But I'm tired of this issue in America has handicapped this nation. And I asked him, I said, were you a slave? No, but my grandmother was. I thought about it. I thought, no, she wasn't. Your grandmother was alive in 1860. You're 48. Let's go back. I said, dude, you have the same opportunities I do. It's ended. It's done. I'm tired of people minimizing what my people been through. I said, do you care what I've been through? I've been through my stuff. Does anybody have a day for me? I said, I've heard and I've seen. I don't care what you've heard and seen. That right there. You ain't black. That's the fallback. That's the MO. I'm not black. Doesn't matter what happened to me. It's a self-centered, narcissistic worldview. Anybody that disagrees with that viewpoint, we're racist in their eyes. We're the enemy. I will not keep silent. I've watched in this workplace, I've watched all through Augusta. They say hi to their own. Some of them only say hi to their own, only be friendly to them, only be kind to them. There's a guy that comes to work, he'll never say good morning to me. He'll say hi to every one of his ethnic. That has been duly noted by others. I don't do that. And I am not going to feel bad for what happened to a people that I had no part of. I'm not going to sit here in 2026, deny my Caucasian race, and take that on and say, well, that's so sad. It is today. There are no slaves alive. There's nobody alive today that went through that stuff. Slavery was wrong, but it was legal. They made it illegal in 1865. And it was a white man who put a stop to it. And blacks had blacks as slaves, and blacks in Africa sold their people to slavery. We never talk about that in this discussion, do we? Your own people sold you out. And there were slaves in China. There were slaves all around the world. George Washington Carver was not castrated. I'm so tired of them talking about this and this and that. And they go to the schools. Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of the bus. They talked about what happened to Oklahoma. They talk about bringing out the fire hoses. You know, I'm into ships. And as ships begin to get bigger, historically, they had to dredge harbors and dredge up the muck to deepen the harbor so ships could get in there and make port. But you have a community that wants to dredge up the muck from the past and throw it in our face and throw it in their kids' face. And these kids that knew no slavery are taught to hate us and to be angry at us. How is this productive? How is this moving on? To keep it in the forefront. And you got kids today that went through no slavery, disrespecting whites, disrespecting the schools, the teachers, and the schools are not helping any. They're not helping these kids at all. There's a video on YouTube called the School to Prison Pipeline. If you look at the construct of most schools in the United States, they are built no different than prisons. Cinder block construction, very few windows, metal toilets. I mean, they train these people young. Get ready. This is where you're going to end up. Same kind of building. There's another video called Indoctrinate You, and it talks about how biased the schools are. The Democrat left, the school system, and Hollywood is championing the cause of the black community by beating on the racist drum that we're privileged. And do you remember in Minneapolis when that whole George Floyd came down and the city council, a white woman on the city council said, seeking to live in safe neighborhoods is racism. Oh, really? Is that why you live in a safe neighborhood? Is that why blacks, they become rich like Oprah and others, move out of the hood? I tell you what, you cannot win with a cult. When I got saved, I didn't even know what a cult was till I got saved. And as a young Christian or a new Christian, I was taught what a cult was. And I want to expand that. To me, a cult is a group of people who hold to false beliefs, claiming that all others are wrong and only theirs is right, and having no manuscriptural truth of their own manuscripts to prove, for example, the Bible is wrong. The cult is defined as anything that does not name the Lord Jesus Christ and claims to be Christian. But a cult is a mindset. I think of cyclists, and I refer to many cyclists as a bicycult. I mean, they wear the Lance Armstrong wear, the helmet, the whole thing, and they act horrible out there on the roads. They've got this over false confidence. They're going to get in the way of traffic. I'm not talking about sharing the road. They run stop signs, run red lights, and then they scream about sharing the road. You are obligated to follow the same traffic laws, bicycle geek, as motorists, and you should be required to have registration and insurance. When I lived in Denver, the cyclists are jerks out there. 99% of them. They do not follow traffic. They go through my stop sign with kids crossing. I would honk, and Lance Armstrong's going like this. You can't do anything. They don't have a plate. I'd say, hey, you're supposed to stop. Our American society's whack. And I talk about it all the time. I talk about the problems of whites, the problems of everybody. I'm an equal opportunity critic, man. I'm going to tell the truth. I do it about myself. I don't spray paint, put veneer over my life. Racism has been defined today by anything that offends the black community. And I'm going to set the record straight. Pattern recognition, telling the truth about what I see, hear, and observe within the black community is not racism. Racism is if I hate you because of your race, because of your skin color. And that's not in me. It's not in me at all. And this country led by the Democrats, has made it such a polarizing issue that the vote on the left is no longer about voting for a viable candidate. It's about what color they are. Obama does not have leadership. Obama was absent from much of his duties in Illinois, and you can read that he wasn't all that in Illinois. And I read Dr. King's speech on Facebook video many years ago. I'd never read it in my life. And I read it out loud. And I closed it with saying, I agree with everything Dr. King said. Everything. He was a great orator. That speech goes down in history. To me. Most black people today don't even know one line from that speech, let alone have ever read the whole thing. But Dr. King said something in that speech that's largely ignored by the African American community to this day. That a man be not judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. You look at who they vote for governors and mayors and politicians and president. Are they moral fiber? Do they have good character? Most often not. Years ago, the mayor in Baltimore was, complaining about Trump, and Trump said, you can't even run your city. The blacks are killing each other. The black community has said at large that Trump is racist. I've never heard Trump use the N-word. I've never heard him say anything about the African American community that could even be remotely construed as racist. In fact, when the riots went on, I was shocked to find that the black community of reverends and preachers, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and the rabble-rousing left and the Oprah Winfrey's and the Obamas and the Maxine Waters, did they ever call on their people to stop the behavior? I was at Denver schools years ago. There was a mixed race, mostly white-skinned girl. She worked in the offices. She would wear skimpy shirts, tight little short skirts and shirts, and she was very cute. She came up and started talking to me right away. Oh, I like your style, I like your necklaces. One day I was having a discussion with some drivers at the table, and she butted into the conversation. I had a school bus route out of West High School. There was 2 or 3 white students on the bus. The majority were Hispanic, Mexican. I liked that route. It's pretty problem-free. And it was a full bus. Interestingly enough, the driver in front of me who was Hispanic, he had a route of mostly Hispanic, and they were throwing things out the window before we left the school. Hoodies, textbooks, backpacks flying out the windows. And he had a bus with the engine in the rear, and they would climb up on the back deck and sit up on there. And I said, what is going on with your bus? He said, Mike, these kids are terrible. I said, they don't do that to me. And we all go to the same stops. One day I pulled up, and there was some event downtown we had to clear out. We were late to the school, and all his kids wanted. I said, hold on. I seen what y'all do on his bus, and we ain't doing this. You can wait for your driver. And then the principal asked me if I could take him. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll take you, but any stuff flies out the window, you stand up acting up, I will turn around, I will drop you off. I didn't have a dang problem with them. That being said, it was a black girl from Africa. know if she was from Sudan or Nigeria, but she was Muslim. She had the scarf on, the whole thing. The language out of her mouth was worse than me on a regular basis. F, 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 F. And she was a powder keg. One black girl from over there, Muslim. She'd go 2/3 the way to the back of the bus, sit down and stretch her feet across the seats, blocking the aisle. And I'd have my knees in the bottom of the seat cushion, leaning against the chair back of my driver's seat, watching the kids as they load. I zeroed in on her. And the Hispanic males are getting on, and they were polite. The one guy lifted his legs, tried to step over, didn't say or do anything. His foot accidentally brushed her leg, and she stands up. Profanity flew. I marched on. I said, "Excuse me, young lady, get to the front of my bus. You're blocking the aisle and you're going to yell at them when they're trying to step carefully. Get in the front. I don't want you back here no more." I said, "Why do you think that you can do this?" And she would run her mouth at people. I said, "You're Islam, right?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Does your religion teach you to do this?" "No." I said, "Then why are you doing it?" Would your dad, if I talked to your dad and told him what you were doing, what would he say? He'd kill me. I said, "So why are you doing this?" I was relaying that story in the break room. And this new, what the heck was her? She was a liaison with the school district and the community. I can't remember her job title. Dressed inappropriately every day. And other people commented on that in the break room. Said, "Wow, we're not allowed to dress that way, but she can." She was a flirt tease. She overheard she goes, "You have no right to do that." I said, "I didn't get in trouble. I didn't pick on her." She said, "I'm going to go talk to somebody." I said, "I'm going to go talk to somebody too, because you're butting into my conversation." And I went right back to HR and I said, "Hey, I just had a conversation. This is what happened." And the HR said, "You actually asked her that question?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Well, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't make fun of her religion. You just asked her to say, 'Hey, is this what you're learning?'" She goes, "If she comes to me, I'll deal with it, Mr. Nelson." See, in America, we're taught we can't say anything about a person's religion. We can't say anything about behavior. That is a lie. If a group of people acting like a bunch of imbeciles and idiots, pattern recognition, you darn right I'm going to say something. When every time you don't get your way, you riot and tear up cities in this country, I'm going to not keep my silence. Intimidation and bullying, for those of us that don't agree with you, is not okay. It is a form of harassment. And I've seen it. And I've watched it. And I live in a 53% African-American community. I've seen the way it rolls down here. And it's not a positive. I don't have a lot of good things to say about them being the majority and things running smoothly. And I'm not racist. I'm just watching. I let them tell me what they are. The eyes and the ears don't lie. The book of James talks about showing favoritism. The book of James talks about showing partiality. And when you see black people only greeting black people and won't say good morning to me, what the hell is that? Guy's got about a year left and he'll be out of there. I don't like being around people of any ethnic background that are racist. I don't tolerate it from white people. I was talking to the shop guy yesterday because he'd asked me why I wasn't at the district. And I told him, I said, they fired me. I said, I don't use the N-word. I talked about an event that happened. in Cincinnati where a woman was beaten down. I did a 3-minute video. In the video, I said the following bullet points. I said, a woman was tore up, stomped in the pavement, beat up by 6. That's not even a fair fight. Grown men, one that just got released from dang jail. This is why you got to stop releasing prisoners, folks. It doesn't work. And in COVID, they did that. And these people within a week went out and killed somebody, many of them. Most people get their freedom, appreciate it, and straighten up. No, not these guys. How about the one that killed Irenia? That judge let this clown out, and he is an abject danger to society. Did I keep it? There he is. That is the face of evil. That is the face of pure satanic evil. Took a knife and sliced the throat of a Ukrainian woman riding a bus, not doing a thing. And then went out and said, I got that white girl. Do you ever see the whites riot when that happens? Maybe they should. Maybe we need to mirror what they're doing and tell them we're tired of what you're doing and it's going to stop in this country. I don't encourage vandalism and riots. I don't do that. The left does. They used George Floyd. The media used George Floyd, who was committing a crime, who had a history of criminal behavior, who held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. Where was the black woman in the community standing up and rioting about the treatment, the ill treatment by African American males? Where is the outcry from the black female community? Knock them up, get them pregnant, abuse them, and don't pay them child support is rampant in this country. And then I got to hear all the time that I'm not black. I don't understand. I don't have to be a certain skin color to have knowledge of the holy. I don't have to be a certain skin color to have knowledge of what goes on in their community. I don't have to be black to be able to speak effectively and truthfully about pattern recognition. That is an elitist mentality. That's a separatist mentality. That's you can't talk about us. But you talk about us all the time and you make false, grand, broad brush statements about my race. Look at my skin tone, people. Look at the contrast. I'm ruddy and red. I'm not white. And this guy, look at the hair color and look at his face. Take a box of crayons and hold up a black crayon to his hair and a brown one to his face. Why do they call themselves black? That's brown as brown can be. And this polarizing, stupid issue. People, Democrats say that whites are afraid of brown-skinned people. I'm not afraid of brown-skinned people. I've dated brown-skinned women. So stupid. So absolutely stupid. Social media's tried to silence us, Facebook, everybody. But they can get on there and say, F Trump, Trump should be taken out. Oh boy. I had a black guy at Denver schools. His name was Anthony. We used to hang out. He was dating a beautiful Hispanic woman. Man, he used her for sex. She was in love with him. I don't know why. I saw him years later. A lot of time had gone by. I had been overseas and lived around the country, and I was driving a school bus down York, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Anthony was muscular, fit, and I never forgot his face. But he said he wanted to be the next Martin Luther King. And when I heard what he was doing to Frances, I said, oh, you want to cheat like he did? What you mean? I said, you've told me that you cheat on her. I said, that woman loves the stuff out of you, man. She's a beautiful woman. What's your problem? And he lived in Akron. And I told him what it was like when I lived in Akron. And he laughed. He goes, oh, yeah, the blacks don't like the whites down there. I said, yeah, I found that out real quick. He said, you need to go through what I went through. I said, why? I said, I had nothing to do with the slave days. You need to experience. I said, oh, so I have to experience what? I said, what did you go through, Anthony? What happened to you? I said, let me tell you something. My observations, more whites are afraid of you than you guys are afraid of us. That's a fact. That's a fact. More whites here in America, they'll keep their mouth shut because they're afraid. They don't want to rock a boat. They don't want to get hurt. Why should it be like that? What happened to having a discussion? I think whites need to stand up and be more vocal about this because it's the elephant in the room. The HR investigator for Richmond County Schools said the same thing to me. The HR woman called me in downtown, read the complaint against me in my video. She said, let's play the video. I said, okay, cool. They're going to promote YouTube at the downtown administrative offices. Awesome. And I was polite and respectful. She paused the video. A white woman was, I said, yes. The HR investigator looked at her and said, this is all over the news, ma'am. This is the hot button topic right now. Oh, I didn't know that. That's really bad. Yeah, it is, huh? One of your own getting tore up by that community that's so awesome. And she didn't do anything. She went to grab a hand of another woman who was being assaulted. These people came out of a jazz festival and the local area bad boys and bad girls were hanging out to start trouble. They claimed somebody yelled the N-word. So on my video, I said, have you ever listened to Cardi B and Nicki Minaj? They fly the N-word constantly. Blacks use it all the time. Blacks used it to each other at transportation. Black students used it on my bus. I had to tell bus after bus, we're not using that word. It's okay, mister, we black. I said, it's a racial epithet. So I was talking to the shop foreman at my place, and I told him, I don't even use that word. He goes, I do. I use it all the time. Look up the definition. The blacks do not own the N-word. It doesn't say anything about race. It means ignorant, dirty person. I said, well, I don't use it. I avoid the whole controversy. I don't use it. I said, find anybody that can point to me and say I use the N-word. You can't. I was trying to find the letter to the superintendent, and I'm going to read it one day in its entirety. I have nothing to hide. I'm a very transparent, honest guy. I was wrongfully terminated and accused of racism. And the letter was the most ridiculous. I sent it to a black school teacher in Zambia, a real African woman, who would call me on the messenger and say, Michael, what is wrong with the African-American people in the U.S.? They're always rioting, always tearing up. And I told her. She goes, that would never be allowed in our country, Michael. They'd shut that down. I said, maybe I need to move to Zambia. Michael, they would love you here. Michael, would you move to Africa? If God called me to move there, you bet your bippy. Johannesburg and Cape Town in South Africa? No. Nigeria? No, they're killing Christians. Where's the outrage from the black community about that? Black people in Nigeria killing black Christians. All we hear about in America is the woe is me with the African American community. That's all we hear about. And the politics are sharply divided right along racial lines. The blacks are going to vote to the left, and they failed to realize that the Democratic Party owned the plantations. The Democratic Party created the KKK for the sole purpose of keeping people from voting Republican, and then it turned into the racist hate group that it is. And they came up with the Jim Crow laws, and for the black community to embrace that party and say the stuff about the Republicans makes no logical sense. And I'm here to tell you it's 2026, and I think both parties are going to hell, especially the Democrats. They have a special seat in the lake of fire. And what I will say by the authority of God's word is many African Americans, just like us all, are going to face God one day, and he's not going to have the assessment of them that they have on themselves. Many of them, he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. To others, he's going to say, you showed favoritism towards your skin color. You treated Michael bad. He's one of my servants. What's up with that? My brother, hold your faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ with an attitude of personal favoritism. For if a man comes into your assembly with a gold ring and dressed in fine clothes, and there also comes in a poor man in dirty clothes, and you pay special attention to the one who is wearing the fine clothes and say, you sit here in a good place. And you say to the poor man, you stand over there or sit down by my footstool. Have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my beloved brethren, did not God choose the poor of this world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which he promised to those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor man. Is it not the rich who oppress you and personally drag you into court? Do they not blaspheme the fair name by which you have been called? If, however, you are fulfilling the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing well. So let me ask you a question. When a black person claims to be a Christian, but they won't say good morning to me, but they'll say good morning to the brothers and the sisters, is he following in the book of James? It's interesting when I dig deeper into the black community, how many of them call themselves Christians and got God this all over their life and God bless. And out of the same mouth, the things that come out of there just blow me away. And favoring your community when they are the very ones killing you. And then treating me bad simply because of the color of my skin. And they claim Martin Luther King, Dr. King is their great guy, and they ignore that line from their speech, from his speech. That a man be not judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. And it always comes back to this. I dated 3 African American women in my life. I paid one that was a prostitute once in my life. She was beautiful. Her name was Africa with a K in Spokane. I asked her why she did what she did. I love sex. She was beautiful. She wasn't into drugs. She was a stunning African American woman. Michael has admitted to you many times about my fallacies, my follies, my crazy stuff, my sins and mistakes. I put myself out there because I'm naked before my God. And so many politicians are liars, cheaters, and swindlers, and they lie and deny anytime they get caught. Yep, I hit a low point in my life, and I decided to try a couple prostitutes in Spokane. I got it out of my system, and I never did it again. Because a Bible verse hit me right straight. The prostitute reduces you to a loaf of bread. They don't love you. They never can. It's about the money. It's sad how we men can be so unloved that we'll stoop to that, thinking that it's a surrogate when it isn't. I'm glad I had that experience. It was wrong in the eyes of God, but it taught me something. I'm not tempted by a prostitute. I'm not going to pay a woman for sex. I'm not gonna. I have no interest in that. I have had an interest in many African American women, but I took 3 in Colorado out. One was a woman I met online. We met at TGI Fridays in Aurora. She was beautiful. We sat at the table, and I said, "Do you mind if I sit by?" No, not at all. And we watched as white families left TGI Friday after their meal and stared. And they didn't smile or say hi, they stared. She looked at me, "Do you see that?" I said, "Yes, I see that." "What do you think of that?" I said, it's modern times. I thought Aurora was past all that. She goes, "No." I said, "So why do they have a problem with biracial?" But she wanted to go on and on about what my people did to her. I said, "What did my people do to you? And why do you call them my people?" The blanket term of whites is ridiculous. And African Americans need to learn something if they're going to have this discussion. There are Germans, there are Irish, Scottish, English, Dutch, Spaniards, French, there's Polish, Hungarians, the Baltic states. If you were to say all those people are the same, you'd be a liar. Just like when I was a kid, kids said, "Oh, all Asians look and are the same." Until I moved to Hong Kong, till I spent time. The Filipinos are different than the Indonesians, different than the Taiwanese, different than the Chinese, different than the Japanese, different than Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand. They're not the same. They have some dietary and some clothing crossovers, but they're not the same. Neither is Africa. Kenya, Nigeria, Zambia, Mauritania, they're not the same. They're unique and different cultures within a continent. And when we hear the word diversity, it's been hammered into our head that blacks are the definition of diversity. No, they're not. Everybody's the definition of diversity. And I talk on my channel about whites going through the corporate funnel and trying to imitate each other. It's disgusting. That's not diversity. That's conformity. But blacks are doing the same thing. They dress like a checkmark advertisement. I go to work, all they talk about is sports. And I want to say, who cares about that play? It's a moment in time and it's done. Who cares? They get paid too much money. Go get a job. Bible talks about 2 Timothy 3, men will be lovers of pleasure rather than God. You go back to Shakespeare, they were considered peasants, low class. Entertainers have been elevated above all of us. Not people with integrity. This guy got very upset. Everything goes good when you agree with them. I redirected it and I walked right out of his way. I said, we're not having this discussion. This isn't the place. We're here to work. You want to stand there and grandstand and say, I don't care. You opened this up. I did not. And we cannot have a rational discussion because you're not going to tolerate it. Meaning they don't want to hear the truth. It angers them. It deflates their little balloon that we're all racist and bad. And they don't like it. And I've come to the conclusion there are many within the African American community that want to play victim because it works. I met white women that want to dramatize what they've been through for 30 years because it works. It gets the sympathy and all the attention they're seeking. It's a dysfunction. It's 2026. Are you still running around with pigeon wings or are you soaring like an eagle? What good does it do to put it in my face like I pooped me on the couch and you rubbed my nose in it. I didn't poop. I'm not the one who pooped me on the couch. Why are you rubbing my nose in your racial issues? I had nothing to do with it. I was a bastard. My mother divorced, fooled around with a boyfriend had me, didn't even let him know. I was put up for adoption 4 months later. I don't even know my family. And the African American community does not care about the struggles, the hurts, and the abuse I've been through. They don't give a damn. I don't care what they think they've been through when they haven't. It's of no concern to me. Man, this racial drum beating is just endless in this country. When is the African American community going to grow and move past this? We want to teach about Rosa Parks over and over and over and over. The Bible talks about forgetting the past, forgetting what is behind. You strive and you press on, and we just go back and back and back. In Manual High School in Denver, in honor of Martin Luther King Day, I was part of busing the students to there so they could see old video footage of white people spraying fire hoses at the black community. Why is this doing? What is this doing? They're not doing that anymore. Why do we keep doing this? To keep the racial tension alive. The schools are playing you folks like a fiddle. And the devil went down to Georgia, and the devil went down to the South, and the devil went down to Baltimore. And you people are being played like a fiddle by the education system, by the media, to play victim, to keep this crap on the front burner. Why? You vote in a party that keeps you down and clips your wings. Your music has taken a tumble into the sewer. You guys led the way in good music. What happened? I have no issue with a black man or woman excelling far above me. Not hard to do. I'm not up there in the stratosphere. I'm not jealous. I will encourage a sister in Christ in the black community or man to do better than me and be proud of them. I'm not in competition with the blacks. They're stronger than me. They have many things that I don't have. I would have no problem marrying or dating a black woman that I felt we were one in spirit and heart. I don't care if all of America stood up against me and her. I'd say, screw that. That's my beloved, and you have no say. But this issue is never going to go away because the Democrats don't want it to go away. The media doesn't want it to go away. Look what happened to the news in our country. It's not news. It's an agenda. It's an agenda. It's evil and it's satanic. The Bible tells us to warn a divisive man once, twice, and have nothing to do with them. You run into black people who want to stir up this racial crap, walk out of their presence and say, I'm not going to listen to this divisive. And I'm going to say that I'm not going to listen to this. This is divisive. We're here to work. Let's focus on our work and let's get the day done. But I will not keep silent. They didn't keep silent about the slavery, and they shouldn't have. But we're not in the slave days anymore. Now we're being abused. Now we're being talked about and lied about and slandered and treated ill. It's time for the whites to start protesting that. We need a white guy to say, I have a dream too. I'll do it if I need to. I have a dream that people stop hiding behind their victimization and excel. That goes for women. In my culture, that had an abusive man and they go on about it 30, 40 years. And they say all men are abusive and all men are a-holes. No, you just dated the worst. And you blame it on us. Take some responsibility. You didn't vet them. You didn't check it out. That's not my fault. Gosh, I had women yesterday after I did a video. Exactly what I said. I'm tired of the women coming on here saying, not all women are like this. I've said that many times. Well, you didn't say it. It's a given. But if I express an opinion or my experiences, not all women are like this. Most are. Why do women got to do that knee jerk? Where's the women's empathy? Mike, I'm sorry you've been through that. Women, because of feminism, get so defensive if you say anything true about them. Blacks get so defensive if you say the truth about pattern recognition and call it racist. To the African American community, you prove that you're losing the truth war when you call people racist because they disagree with you. That's wrong. And the Democrats have used that as a bludgeon and a weapon. Me telling the truth about Cardi B and Nicki Minaj with their trash, foul music with the N-word and the F-word in it, that does not do well for your community. There are black men and women that are high class. They don't listen to that. They don't endorse that. And we got a lot of people in America today, in the African American, that endorse all that foul, profane, awful music. Where's the blacks in their community, in the churches, speaking out against that? Where's the blacks in their community speaking out against the riots? Where's the black preacher stood up and said, seek not revenge, brothers and sisters. Let God handle this. Where's the preacher in your community telling you to behave yourself, keep yourself in check, and entrust yourself to a faithful creator? Where? Where are the men and women of God standing up and saying, ladies, we don't listen to Cardi B. That's not godly. That's not befitting of a Christian woman. Ladies in the black community, carry yourselves with propriety. Where's the preachers? Where's the teachers in the black community? I had a black woman tell me, I have never met a white man who knows the Bible as much as you. I said, that's because you've never been to a white person's community of believers. There's a lot of people that know the Bible in the white community. There's a lot of Mexicans that know the Bible and Asians. But you wouldn't know it because you don't step outside. And blaming the Asians in Augusta and around the country for starting, he says they own liquor stores. They make a lot of money from us. Listen to what you're saying. They make a lot of money from us for liquor stores. That's part of your problem, bro. They shouldn't even allow the liquor stores in the poor communities. It's a downward spiral. Pay attention to zoning, folks. You don't have a liquor store in the gated communities or near it at all. Reparations. Why do I owe the black community money or something for something I was no part of? I don't. Why are we going to pay 44 million blacks when there was only 4 million slaves? That ain't right. And you got white people doing tokenism. Gavin Newsom believing in reparations. Well, why don't you empty your bank account and pay the black man, clown? You want taxpayer money to do that. Gavin Newsom is a devil, and he's going to hell. That's a fact. He doesn't name the name of Christ. Guess where Jesse Jackson is? Guess where Al Sharpton's going? Guess where Michael Jackson and Prince are? Guess where that crazy woman in politics, Maxine Waters? Guess where Oprah's going? Oprah criticized a Southern woman witnessing for Jesus on her show. She told everybody in the nation what she believed, and it wasn't in the truth. So people want to hold up the black community because they're in sports or celeb culture. I'm going to offer a different view. Stop pedestalizing a people group, a celeb, a beauty, an income, and start glorifying the Almighty God and start learning to start treating everybody equally the same instead of showing partiality. Instead of beating the drum of racism, make sure that your ways are lining up with your God and stop worrying about what all the rest of us are doing and then being rude to us and then getting mad when we don't agree with your little pity party. I don't have to. As you said, I'm not black, so don't expect me to behave black. I can't and I won't. There are things about black culture I love. There are things about black culture I don't love. There are things about Hong Kong culture I loved, and I was very vocal about the things I didn't love. There are things about Mexican culture I like. There are things about Mexican culture I don't like. The Tower of Babel, God scattered the people and gave them different languages, and we were different. Differences aren't necessarily wrong. But when we become a Christian, we need to embrace the culture of Christ. And if your culture is teaching you to walk contrary and not according to this, then you need to throw that out. Any culture. And that goes for my white culture. White women going to church today claiming that a man's supposed to make big money to please them. That's not in here. It says, if a man will not work, he will not eat. If a man provide not for his family, what is the definition of provide? It is not defined by Western Christian white women. It's defined by the Lord. Give us this day our daily bread. Everybody in this country needs to be reminded to return to this. Playing the racist drum is a victim mentality and it needs to stop. Yelling and screaming at the police when your actions are criminal, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm tired of a society that goes after the police when they do wrong instead of going after the perp that started the whole business to begin with. Clean up your people. And I say that to every group out there. Clean up the BS in your camp before you dare to talk about anybody else. Look at Baltimore. Look at Southside Chicago. Look at South Augusta. Look at these mayors and governors that get in. Look what they're doing. They're not improving a damn thing. They got their hand in the cookie jar. Out here, they say, get out the black vote. Can you imagine if white people said, we got to get out the white vote? Can you imagine what the media would do with that? It's a one-way street, man, and it's a dead-end street. I'm tired of getting caught in that cul-de-sac. I've turned around and I left it. I'm a white man according to them. No, I'm Irish descent. I'm Caucasian. And I'm not white. I'm ruddy. And Irish were distinct, even among Caucasians, as were French, as were Polish, as were Germans and Austrians and Swiss. The bullcrap that goes on and on and on. I swear, this is just like that dang show. This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friend. Everybody is racist, and they keep saying it is so. I think of that song, Devo Whip It. I'm going to write lyrics. When a problem comes along, call it racist. When you disagree all along, you must be racist. Dun, 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 you're a racist. Dun, 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 you're a racist. Dun, 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 you're always racist. That works. But it's not the truth. Disagreeing with a people group about their boo-boo mentality does not make you a racist. I think for myself, and they don't like that. I'm supposed to feel bad. I'm supposed to agree. Guess what? Even if you do, you're never part of their deal. You will not be invited to the reindeer games. You are not inducted into their world. God scattered the people at the Tower of Babel for a reason. I'm not going to apologize for being Irish. I'm not going to apologize for what happened in the slave days. I don't know my family's background or my history, so it has nothing to do with me. And telling me I have privilege, my butt cheeks. Abused by the adopted mother, rejected by the real mother. I've been through my own stuff, and I'm tired of my life being minimized because I'm not black. That's not right. And to hear a man say that all the Asians are bad and saying that they don't give back to the black community, why should they? They had the guts to open a store. Where were your black businessmen? Where were they? How come they didn't open the hair boutiques? Why is it that my friend at the flea market spent $1,200 for hair extensions? $1,200. And I hear the blacks complain about that. I don't know what Asian they are. I've been in that store. The black friend of mine, they were nice to me. Well, I'm tired of them following around. I said, well, look, dude, you don't want to admit it, but there's a lot of theft. Who's stealing from the Walmart on Deansbridge Road? They got everything behind locked cabinets. Answer the question. I'm not even going to say. You know who it is. I'm not going to be silent. At work, I don't want to get into it. It's a loaded fused gun. I'm going to tell him if he brings it up again, I'm going to say, dude, I don't want to talk about this. We're here to work. And this is not the place to get into our beliefs and our view of the world, okay? Let's make the workplace go smooth and let's do a job well done. All right, let's just stop. I cut it off. Not him. He was in a huff for the rest of the day. Some people live off of that. I have to analyze my own self when I get deeply angry about something. Is it good for me to be angry all the time? No. Bible tells me, let the peace of God rule in my heart. Part of being a Christian, we stand on the truth. I'm not interested in going out and getting up in the black community's face. I believe in living my life, but I've said this. God will not let me alone. I go to work, and this guy tries to drag me into this. And this is what happens over and over because the devil's a liar. And that's what the devil's going to do. And too many Christians that's not the way we're supposed to be. And I didn't report that yesterday. We grown men. Brings it up again. I'm going straight into HR's office to say, look, I ain't getting myself in trouble. We got along fine. We worked well together. I wanted him in that spot. I said, I think he'd be good for that. He's driven and he works hard. Unlike others, I don't hate somebody just because they believe different than me. I can't say that about a lot of them. See, if you get a person to believe that you're racist, then it validates their rage against you. And even if you have no proof that they're racist, you can just say that they are because they disagree with you. The crap that goes on, since I've been working here, I've seen black person after black person after black person after black person get fired. Failing drug test. We even had a white guy fail drug test twice. He's out. One woman that she was nice, she went to sleep in her car after lunch. When I was here, the guy that trained me, after lunch, he'd go out and smoke pot. He took the company truck and left for 4 hours, went to his home, One of the owners went to his address, saw the company truck there. He came back. He said, I'm going to wait for him to come back and then we'll deal with this. And after the HR investigator for Richmond County Schools watched my video with the head of HR that she played, and this woman drove me up a wall. I was off for 20 days without pay while they investigated. There was no investigation. I did not have a right to a fair trial. I was not present to discuss or defend myself. That is what is wrong with the school system. When you got social media does it, the media does it, the school system does it. When you're being accused of something, I should be able to sit there in front of all the panel and all the people and say, this is why I said what I said. This is the context of what I said. And you cannot tell me that that's racist. That's called a kangaroo court. And it's bullcrap. And that's what our society encourages. And that's wrong. That's not even biblical. That's not even right. Some people were butthurt that saw my video, and they were butthurt because I told the truth, and they were butthurt because as a white guy to dare to have the boldness and the confidence to say, I don't agree with them and what they're doing. Because a lot of white people will not do that. They'll murmur to each other, but they're not going to stand up and say, I don't agree with you. They're not going to do it. They're scared. And I want to know why Bible-believing Christians are scared. The Bible tells us, fear not. I'm not out there getting up in their face. I didn't do it at work. I don't go up and say, hey, Obama was a crappy president. I don't engage in that. They would bring it to me on the job. Michael, who'd you vote for? I said, why are you asking me this? Because they want to fight. They want to argue. I don't. I want to tell the truth. So help me God. That's what a Christian's supposed to do. And we got too many Christians, they're worried about protecting their little Hallmark channel and their little lives. Well, I don't get into controversy. Yeah, because you got your lifeboat out. You're protecting you. We need to use wisdom. But if somebody comes up, you got every right to say, hey, dude, if you're going to get into this discussion, are you ready to hear what I have to say? Because it's not going to agree with you. And if you're not willing to do that, we're going to shut this down. But we're at work and we shouldn't have this. You want to go out to lunch one day and light it up in the restaurant? We can light it up in the restaurant. We can have this discussion. Actually, I wouldn't do that. Why don't you have him watch your channel? Why don't we not mention that? I'm not afraid of what I view, and he may see it. And nobody has a right to assault and kill me because I don't agree with them. I'm not a danger to the black community. I'm not a danger to femmes. The truth is a danger to anybody who doesn't want to believe it. And that's why they act out and do what they do. End of story. But I'm not going to keep silent. God didn't teach me to be a scaredy cat. And I have fear. I've had fear all my life. I had fear of a dominating, abusive mother. I've had a lot of fear in my life. I've had fear of the black community. There are neighborhoods I would not walk through in the daytime or nighttime. They're a danger to each other. I'm not going to go walking through there. No. And I don't believe all blacks are monsters or Neanderthals. I don't believe that. But if African Americans want to actually have a discussion and find a way to end all this, they got to listen to some of us too. It can't be a one-way street where they get the stage and they get the floor and they get the mic and we got to have this rammed down our throats. Absolutely not. We're not in the slave days anymore. I have the same equality you have. You want to say these kinds of things, I'm going to counter it. I'm going to counter it again and again and again. And you sit there telling me I'm not black, I don't understand. You've just implied that you're superior. I'm not going to listen to that. Nobody's superior. The only one superior is God Almighty, Get off your throne, clowns. And that's all over the internet. It's all over. You got white people that think they're superior to me, superior to others. You got white women because of looks, they think they're automatically superior. I will tear down the gods in their own mind. I will tear them down and expose them because you know what? Nobody's God. Nobody's on top of the heap. The ground is level at the foot of the cross. We all need Jesus Christ. I need a banana. I've ranted long enough. I need a banana. Anybody want a banana? If it was George Jetson, I could put it in the screen and give it to you. Joe Biden said the following statement, that he wouldn't put his kid in this public school. It was majority black. He said it's a jungle in there. The blacks have yelled and beat on the drum that Trump is racist over and over and over again. That comment that Biden made was all over out there. The blacks didn't say one negative word about Joe Biden. When you have a people group that went through slavery and went through the awfulness of that, and they were treated bad at the hands of the Democrat Party that created the KKK and the Jim Crow laws, and blacks joined the Republican Party because they felt safe with Republicans, for the black community to embrace that community that was against the Emancipation Proclamation is absolutely staggering. My question is, why? They keep you in the projects. They keep you on the government's dole. Tell me how your party has made your race better. Tell me one more time, because I ain't seeing it. You guys brought music and jazz and R&B, soul. What has happened to your music? What's happened to your children? Growing up with a mother like Cardi B who gets mad at Peppa the Pig. She said this. I hate Peppa the Pig. It encourages my girl to step in mud puddles and I buy her designer clothes. Why don't you let your girl be a little girl? Peppa the Pig is encouraging kids to be kids. How about Cardi B, you take a good look at your music. My wet ASS PUSSY. Good lyrical content, right? You're playing that and kids are hearing that. You know what the Bible says about that? Better for a millstone to be hung around your neck than to cause or teach one of these little ones to stumble. Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, all you rappers with your angry rhetoric and the N-word and the F-word, you are raising a generation of kids that have no respect for authority, no fear of God. I don't want to hear nothing from you celebs about Donald Trump. Shut your mouth. You're not qualified. A rap musician's going to be qualified to talk on a political level or on Scholastic. Give me a break. Give me a break. That's the role models today. I wonder if Martin Luther King was alive, what he'd think about this music. I wonder what he would say. I wonder if George Washington Carver was to come back today and see what's going on, if he'd be, whoa, that ain't right. When a black woman in Baltimore during COVID and the riots and all the crap that was going on was interviewed, an older black woman, she said, please don't defund the police. They're all I've got. She was saying that in the rough, black area of Baltimore. Did you hear the comments made when that bridge went down by the ship hitting it? All of a sudden, that was turned into a racial event. A ship hitting a bridge. Wow, that's really reaching. And the black community was saying it's only 10% white here, and we want them out. Hello, CNN. Hello, MSNBC. Is anybody in the newsroom? Have I got a story for you? Did you hear what they just said? Crickets. That's how you know the media is jacked up. So you want to push the 10% whites out of Baltimore. Baltimore's not doing well. The toilet bowl. I've met people in my chat that have told me it's a toilet bowl that live there. How about if I told you I met a black woman that lives there and got on my chat and said it's a toilet bowl? And it's not because of white people that made it a toilet bowl. I have a friend in Zambia who's a school teacher, works for the Ministry of Agriculture. That's what the education system is under. I said, how come you don't have hostility towards the Brits? Because they colonized. I don't, Michael, because they taught us things. They gave us some modern stuff and brought water to the villages, and they helped make us better. And she goes, I don't understand why the anger goes on in your country. It doesn't make sense. I had a Nigerian woman, a beautiful Christian woman, on my bus. In the summer, I was doing work for a private school and driving their bus up to Estes Park and Trail Ridge Road up in the Colorado Rockies in Rocky Mountain National Park. And this black woman sat there and told me, the African Americans are not nice to me, Michael. I whirled around. I said, what? I thought, oh no, Michael, they make fun of me. I have talked to women in Africa that put to shame the lion's share of your loudest women, African American, that are in leadership or high positions in this country. They know several languages. They dressed modestly. They carry themselves with manners. You don't hear the F word or the N word. And I love how they want to play up on this African part. They have nothing in common with the women I've met from so-called primitive Africa. I could live around a people like that and do just fine. I would not be scared to live in Mabel's community. African American culture is extremely divisive in the continental U.S. And just them saying, I'm African American, I'm going to start that when I hear that. Oh, I'm Irish American. Oh, were you born in Ireland? No, ma'am. Were you born in Africa? No, but. No buts. No buts. You play that, and then Nancy Pelosi and all them clowns get up wearing African wear. What a joke. If the African American community really wants to learn knowledge, pay attention to this fact. That party that supports you, that gaslights you every election and says that the Republicans are racist, look where they're living. Look who they hang out with. You want to talk about systemic racism? It is systemic with white Democrats that are elitists that live in gated communities. They don't hobnob and run with the blacks, and they don't live near them. Hello, wake up. And you keep voting for these clowns. Biden didn't want his kid going to a school because there were all black people in there and said it was a jungle in there. You didn't say one word about that. One word. Don't talk about Donald Trump and say he's a racist when that President Biden was saying this stuff and you didn't say a word. Don't talk about it. LeBron James, I have no respect for him. He hasn't worked a hard day in his life like I have or most people I know in the white community. He plays basketball. Who cares? Makes way more money than he should. When we raise basketball and football players and rap musicians higher than the working man, something is wrong in this culture. God is not going to welcome in P. Diddy and LeBron and say, oh, yeah, hey. No, it ain't going to be like that. These people are going to be a rude awakening when they stand before the Almighty. Everybody in this world is going to be in for a rude awakening. Even me as a Christian, when I stand before the Bema seat and God's laying out my stuff that I build on my foundation, it ain't going to be pretty at all. And you got this arrogance that runs through this community that doesn't quit. They think they're superior to me, stronger than me, better than me. Whatever, man. I don't care. I'm just trying to survive and get through this world. And I asked him one question yesterday, deliberately for a reason. Later in the day, I said, you all right, man? Yeah, why? I said, I'm just checking on you, man. So I was going to say, you really wrapped up today. You really wrapped up. Meaning you're pissed. No, any day I get up is a good day. I said, well, it depends on your perspective. If I don't wake up, I'm going home, brother. You want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. And that's what we need to focus back with all these people that want to get into this racial bullshit. Are you ready to meet Jesus? You're going to spend your whole dang life. You're going to spend your whole dang life fussing about the blacks and what y'all been through. You're wasting your time and your energy when you could fly with eagle's wings. I would love it if the black community would get a hold of that and soar. I'm not jealous of them. If they surpass me, I'll stand on the edge. I'll stand up in a coliseum and say, good job, people. I'm proud of you. I'm sick and tired that I was accused of being a racist because I spoke the exact truth in a 3-minute video. The HR investigator did not think that I was racist. When I left the building, he was by the copier and he said, when you get out in the van, call me. He said, you did that on your own time, had nothing to do with Richmond County. He said in front of the HR lady after the video ended, he put his arms behind his head. He said, whoops, my nipples are showing. He didn't say that. Michael, you talked about the elephant in the room that nobody's supposed to talk about. And he laughed. Because of mankind, because of the world we live in, he doesn't want to lose his job. He's not going to look at that HR lady and say, there's nothing racist about this. He's the investigator. For him to call me aside, and this is the same one that dealt with Andrew Drescher's bullcrap, took a snippet of a video, sent it to the Richmond County website. This guy is evil. And I talk about troll. Hides himself, hides his address, maybe lives with mommy. Somebody bound and determined to destroy your life because you speak the truth. Unpack the psychology of that. Don't worry about my clothing. Don't worry about my mental state. It's fine. Do I have fears? You better believe it. I live in Augusta, and they call it Disgusta. The blacks call it Disgusta. And why is that? Because the whites have ruined it? No. Because there's drugs and crime and black-on-black violence. That's why. I don't know. It's funny when people get in the big money in the black community, they don't move on down here like I did. They leave it. If whites are so terrible, why is it when black people come into affluence, they head off into our communities? Well, not mine, but the upper end. Because they don't want the bull crap. They don't want to hear gunshots. They don't want all that crap. That's why. The Democrats didn't say one word or make any attempt to quell those riots in 2020. In fact, they encouraged it. The media love showing all the destruction. And they punish somebody for having a gun at the front of their store. They punish people for trying to defend and protect their business. What has happened to America? If I walk up to a black man's front porch with intent to go into his house, he's going to drop me right there. As he should. What about that judge and his wife in Missouri? And that black district attorney woman who had a hatred towards whites. Did y'all see that? Would you Judge McCloskey? He and his wife were in their house fixing dinner. The wrought iron gate was busted open and a crowd of people surround their house threatening to burn it, to kill their dog, to kill them. They came out with their weapons. They didn't fire them. They said, do not come up on this front porch. They were on their property. They didn't shoot them. The DA had them arrested. Not one person was hurt by them. I'll be damned if a 13% of this country is going to wag the entire freaking dog. I'm not going to sit here and be silent about that. Change your ways. All this belly aching about stealing the land, all right? You're working at a job that's on stolen land. You made money on a stolen land. You bought a house and a car and you're driving on stolen land. What are you doing to help the Indians? Nothing. Shut your mouth. Go give your house and sign it over to a native. The hypocrisy of the left, of this community, is always self-evident. Did you hear Maxine Waters encouraging bad behavior? She wasn't tried. Oh, when we hear about an insurrection, she said, I want people to confront people at the gas stations in the restaurant. And what did they do? Harass senior citizens eating their dinner in a restaurant. Pattern recognition is real. Asians, Hispanics, whites, even a female on my channel that's got black skin said, and I love what she said. I can't remember exactly how she worded it, but she said, Michael's not racist just because he's talking about the black community. Stop doing that. Young lady that's beautiful and black skin color has got her head screwed on straight. I don't promote racism. I tolerate it zero. People are coming onto my channel and making stupid jokes that were racist, and I blocked them immediately, non-negotiable. I don't support that from anybody. But I don't support the blacks using a veil of victimhood and then being racist while screaming that everybody's racist. I'm done with that. I'm going to call it out. I'm going to talk about it because it needs to be talked about. And I think every person in America that's sick of this, we need to unite with one voice, surround the Capitol and say, no more! No more special treatment for this, for this, for this cat. No more. No more. Death penalty, and death penalty to the judge that let him out because of the color of his skin. Death penalties, judges, when they let somebody out and they go and commit a murder, death penalty. You may not be a Christian, but when you're in a place of the seat of a judge You better reflect this, because you will be judged by God. You will be judged by God for failure. I promise you. Liberal judges don't belong in a courtroom. We need people to stand up for the right thing. If that had been a black, sweet lady sitting on that bus and a white guy knifed her, same thing. Put him in the gallows. Put him in the electric chair. Firing squad, whatever. People talk about no justice. Yeah, right there. Right there. That's despicable. I don't have any love in my heart for that. Don't and won't. A soulless clown. No conscience. How about that guy that killed a high school student? Was going under their tent canopy and he was asked several times to move and he knifed him. How about the black guy that set a woman on the subway on fire? How about the black guy in Savannah a few months ago that poured battery acid on a woman's head coming out of a church and ran off like a coward? I got fired from a school system in America, not because of work performance, not because there were complaints at my workplace that I was racist and or harassing. That never existed, and it's mostly black down there. A woman would pull money out of right here and tip me at the pumps. I said, you don't owe me that. Michael, you serve us, and I appreciate you. None of those people believed I was racist or a threat to them ever in daily life. In fact, they've been in this house and seen it. Many of them. They asked me, can you wash my bus after you're done? Honey, I'm going home. They'd offer to pay me. No, the superintendent of Richmond County was virtue signaling. They took 4 videos that were little spoofs in the yard of me being creepy and used that to prove that I could be a danger to the school system. Totally ridiculous. And yet most of the people in the black community love horror movies and violent movies, and that's okay. But me being jokester in the yard, just walking through the yard with the moonlight out with an axe and creepy music is a threat to the school district. That's ridiculous. That's unfounded. But the school system has played violent racial epithet music for the kids. And that flies. I'm not talking out of my butt cheeks. I'm talking as one who has experience. I have been harassed, bullied, threatened by many blacks in my life. At the shop at Transportation, we have 2 men in there. One claiming to be a Christian. He's a complete a-hole. The foreman said he was an a-hole. He's not a good employee, but because of the color of his skin, they can't get rid of him. There was another guy there for 20, 25 years, screwing half the women, cheating on his wife, bragging about it. Rude to me over and over and over. I never did anything to this guy. Then he told somebody I'm going to kick his ASS. I went to management again and again. No reprimands, no written warnings, nothing. He wrecked a school bus playing on the phone. Thank God there were no kids. I had just serviced the bus and redid 90% of the seats, swept it up, fueled it for the lady. She wasn't there when I turned it over that afternoon. He destroyed the bus, totaled it. He continued to work there for 2 months under Richmond County pay. I mentioned that to the HR, and he even said, yeah, that has been a problem. I said, what are they doing about it? The guy has no conviction. He bragged that he used to deal drugs in my neighborhood. He knew where the crack house was, bragged about it. I'm tired of these people playing victim while they're dishing out a lot of shit in society. I'm going to say something about it. And if they don't like it, that's too bad. They think they're the only ones that got the stage and they're the only ones that got it going on. Well, God made me and God gave me a voice and I'm going to use it, so help me God. And that fear and intimidation that they put on people is not okay. It's bullying. And that's how you know a group of people is wrong, when they resort to that. Riots, intimidation, fear. If you're walking in the truth, you don't do that. God's got my back or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, don't matter what I do, I'm done. I want to thank everybody for listening. I don't like talking about this. I'm sick of it. I want to live in a town where I don't have to have this discussion anymore. I'm done with it. And yet it's there. You have to. God brought me here to force me to be bold. God doesn't want a bunch of wussy Christians. Playing nice and being nice doesn't save people. It doesn't change behavior. It never has and it never will. The Bible says you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, what is salt? Get in your eyes, you'll find out real quick. But if salt loses its effectiveness, it's no good. And we got a bunch of white Christians in America. I'm doing well. How are you today? That is so gay. So gay and ineffective. Church is using gimmicks. Tell the truth. Rock the pulpit. Don't rock the Casbah, rock the pulpit. You got it, use it. I'll put myself up against any black preacher anytime. I'll have that place going, man, listen to this guy go off. Because it's a fire in my own bones. And that's from God, not from me. I was scared all my life. An abusive mother, I was terrified of her. It took me years of finally getting my guts and finding them and saying, Mom, no more. I'm going to tell the truth now. And guess what? I know that it's right because she's never made an effort to talk to me. Never made an effort to say, Michael, I did you wrong. When you tell the truth, it does things. You got a community of people in this country that are screaming and yelling about us all the time. And if a man stands up and says truth, they cry racist. That's how you lose arguments. That's how you prove to the world you cannot stand on fact. So you use the racist word as a weapon, a lightsaber. Stupid. I'm not afraid of the black community. Should I be? Should I shake in my boots? Are you going to kill me because I say something that doesn't agree with you? I'm no danger to you. I'm a nonviolent man. But there's a lot of violence in your neighborhoods. Lots. Might want to look at that. I get tired. I've had to tell grown adults in my workplace, grown women, Michael, I will lose my job. I said, you're going to get in a fight as a grown. Yes, I will. And somebody said it the other day. A woman said it to me, they think with emotion. Your feelings can validate you all you want. You don't have the right to assault somebody for saying the N-word, and that woman didn't say it. I would have said the same thing on a 3-minute video if that was a sweet black woman coming out of a jazz festival and 6 white male and female guys jumped her. I'd say the same thing. I would say that is savage behavior. That is Neanderthal. This is a civilized country. What the heck? I'm no respecter. I'm glad I wasn't there with my deuce. I might have been inclined to take that truck and run some people over that night. I would have done a drive-by. Get off of her! Get off of her! Get off or I'm going to take you off. I can't touch you, but this truck, you ain't going to get on this. And that woman's got a lawsuit against the city of Cincinnati, and she has every right to. The media, the Democrats, Hollywood, and the school system is encouraging this kind of behavior by this community, playing victim, constantly dredging up the past, making it like it just happened yesterday. That is not an education. That is indoctrination designed to inflame and cause people to live by sheer emotion. This is not changing anything. It's making things worse. White people laying down and apologizing for being white. How stupid is that? I didn't get to choose what package I was born in. You got a problem with my package? Maybe you got a racist problem. Check yourself. I have a problem with skin color. I've always preferred brown-skinned women. Always. I got a problem with a set of beliefs that is dangerous to me and everybody else. And if you don't like what I have to say, don't listen. Y'all huddle up in your little Democrat leftist group and only want to listen to them, just like a cult. The Mormons only listen to Mormons. Some guy was trying to promote the Book of Mormon, Kenneth, on here. I said, no, we're not reading it. Oh, you won't read it? Oh, because I don't need to read the counterfeit when I got the real. I don't need to listen to the black community anymore. I've heard and seen enough. I've made a verdict. And that verdict is based on this, based on my observation, and it's the truth. I'm not ashamed to be Michael Nelson. I'm ashamed that I didn't speak up sooner. I'm ashamed of, my race letting them beat us up and cause everybody to back up in fear. This country is allowing this crap to prosper. Where are the Christians, black and white, standing up and saying this rap music with this foul music, this N-word has got to go? Where are the men and women of God in both communities decrying it? They're not there. These riots that these Democrats provoke, I told you, the news creates the news. You have to realize that about our media. They're not reporting the news, they're creating it. And they know what they're doing. They love to broadcast the destruction. And it gives those miscreants a stage. That right there is shameful. Not one. These Democrats claim they got college and they're more educated than Republicans. Not one Democrat said, hey, we don't do things this way. We're not rioting, tearing stuff up. That's not okay. Not one Christian black minister, so-called, not Jesse, not Al Sharpton and the goof troop of leftist lawyers that are always looking for a racist opportunity to have a racial lawsuit. Clowns. I don't respect them. I don't have to. Jesse Jackson was not a minister of Almighty God. He's a representative of Satan. Good riddance that he's left the earth. Good riddance. That guy was inflammatory, and he did not represent this book or God of this book at all. We live in a country where I've been censored for telling the truth. Our whole court system is based on the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now you're punished for saying the truth. While the people that have caused this problem can say and do whatever they want, unrestrained, unchecked. Employers handle them with kid gloves. I told you about the guy I worked with, harassing me daily. They didn't fire him because of what he was doing to me. If I'd have done what he did to a woman, I'd be fired day one. This went on for months. They fired him because he failed a second drug test. I don't have any rights in America. None. Not today. I'm a white male. That's a strike against me. I'm a Christian. That's another strike. I vote conservative. Oh, that's evil. I see and I hear what's going on. This clown has more freedom than I do. Now he can claim insanity and get out. Caste system, two-tiered justice, judges that let these clowns walk. You think we're making America great again, huh? Stop drinking the Kool-Aid, people. We're not. It's not happening. It's getting worse. Trump's got us bogged down in this stupid war. Even I know for a fact, and I'm not a politician, even I know if you're going to go against Iran, then you go for total end. You don't mess with them. Ezekiel 38 and 39 talks about Persia and Russia and Turkey and even some African nations and Muslim nations are going to come against Israel in the latter days. What Trump did is foolishness. China and Russia are supplying them with nuclear, or not nuclear, but weapons. And they get kickbacks on oil. If I'm a president, I'd say we cannot do this. We will push negotiations. You could knock out the entire regime. And I can see why God said back in the Old Testament, thou shalt not intermarry. I can see why God scattered the peoples. Now, I don't believe it is a sin for a Christian to marry outside their race. I fully support that. That's between them and God and nobody else. But as I get older, I start to see that dating outside your race has lots of problems. Cultural issues, belief issues. Solomon went after all these foreign women and he changed his heart constantly. Men, if you're going after a woman that's making you change your entire belief system and going to her side, and it's not the truth, you better catch yourself from the free fall, grab your nuts, and get out of it. You're supposed to be the head of your house, not led by your testicles. You cannot marry somebody who believes that the Democrat Party is good. That is not going to be a conducive household. It's not going to be a conducive marriage with me. That's not going to work in my economy. I'm not going to marry a black woman or date a black woman who's always crying about what's happening to her race. I don't want to listen to it anymore. I'm tired of it. It's old hat. It's the same old drum beat. And I'm tired of the song. I'm tired of the music. It's repetitive. It's like listening to Baby Shark for 10 hours straight. It's like listening to This Is the Song That Never Ends. It's like listening to 99 bottles of beer on the wall. I'm tired of it. Turn it off. I don't want to hear it. And they'll say, oh, see, he doesn't want to hear it. I've heard it so many times and it's bull crap. Playing victim for what you didn't go through has got to come to an end. You got two choices: soar with wings of eagles or flap like a pigeon. I don't want to hear it. You want to impress me? You want to get my attention? Do something. And I'll stand up. Well done. I've got many, many, many more things to say about this issue. I could fill a cargo ship load of videos on this topic. I am qualified to talk about black issues because I'm living here and have experience. Don't ever be bullied, people, by that phrase. You're not black, you don't understand. You look them right in the eye and say, so you're racist by that statement. You're saying because I'm not your ethnicity that I am incapable of understanding. You have just insulted my intelligence. You said you're superior to me. Welcome to you being racist. Huh. How does that work? I don't have to be black to have understanding. Where does it say that? What does the Bible say about skin color and understanding? Let's see what it says. Let's read it. Let's see what ethnicity is the only one that can understand. Wait a minute. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's funny. Proverbs 1:7 doesn't say being black is the beginning of knowledge. Doesn't say that. It says fools despise wisdom and instruction. Wow, perfect. You go and steal from a store. You use counterfeit money. The clerk tells you, put the item down and we'll let it go. And the guy says no and walks out the door. Police are called. They arrest him. Welcome to AKA George Floyd 2.0. Now we've got the whole I can't breathe drama, and black people in Augusta wearing I can't breathe masks. And I'll say, we'll take off the mask and maybe you can breathe. I watched what the Democrat Party did during COVID before COVID got traction in the U.S. Do you remember what they said on the media? They said, the Democrats, the CDC, blacks are more susceptible to COVID. Wait a minute. Why are blacks more susceptible to COVID? They are stronger muscularly, male and female, than we are without even going to the gym. I was with a woman on my bed in here. She was as lazy as they come. I liked her. She had muscle that didn't quit. I said, ooh, push on my chest. I like the way you're pushing down on my muscles. They have got an advantage that I don't have. When I need something picked up at work, they just go, pfft. I'm like, that's why they used them as slaves. They had natural strength. I'm not saying it's right. Why did the Democrats say that blacks were more susceptible? Because it worked. Manipulation to get the vote. Oh, the Democrats are warning us. They care about us. Yeah. Like Satan does for a toddler. You were used, people. They all masked up. They were really masked up. Did any more blacks die percentile-wise than whites or Asians or Hispanics? Nope, not at all. It's not there. It's not there. And COVID hadn't even taken off in the U.S. The Democratic, does anybody remember that? Leave a comment. Does anybody remember the media saying that? I remember it well. The media was securing vote for the left. Oh, Donald Trump don't even care. See how that all goes hand in glove? I can't help but wonder if this COVID thing wasn't, I just can't help but wonder if Paul Fauci and these dirty people over there in Wuhan weren't setting up something to create a problem to affect vote. I don't know. I don't want to run with conspiracy theory, so I stay away from that. But I can't help but wonder that this came at a coincidental time before the next major election. Wow. There's some dirty, 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 dirty stuff that our government does, and none of those files will ever be released. The fact that the FBI had a book on Epstein and no arrests are made proves that the FBI is not doing their damn job. Fire all of them. Put me as the head of the FBI. I'll clean house. The janitor won't have a job there. Say, this is jacked up. And all this crap going on social media of harassment. I, as the FBI, tell Google, you better do something or we're going to pull you in court. And we're going to sue you and we're going to shut you down. They can solve problems in this country. They don't want to. You care so much about Baltimore and the projects? Get rid of the projects. I watch women around here get pregnant, get EBT and all the assistance. They got more assistance than I will ever have. I work my butt off for measly pay and deal with bull crap. With people that come to work telling me that I'm wrong and I'm white's this, why I'm sick of it. This is not the America I chose. I was born here. I'm a native. And I got to hear, oh yeah, I stole the land. I didn't steal nothing. I was born on this land. Woo! Get me fired up, hotter than the Titanic's boilers. I wish I had an ocean liner that goes 85 miles an hour. I'd love to go down the engine room and watch that old steam machinery working. I'd love to feel the throb of that. I'd like to be in that engine room where it's hot down there on a cold Atlantic night, watching that machinery and walk up on the bridge and look at the stars. I'm out here on the ocean. I don't have to deal with this crap no more. I want an escape. Don't you? People saying, oh, I want to live my life on earth. I don't. Take me home, God. It'll be awesome to be in heaven. The word racist will never be said again. There's not going to be a black section. There's not going to be a white section. There's not going to be a Democrat or Republican. There's not going to be the used car club over here and the bingo players over there. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him. God bless the day when I will embrace black, Christian, beloved people in heaven and there's no more of this bull crap. God bless the day when I will embrace a Chinaman, a China woman with the love and glory of God and there's none of this caca. I have a dream that the world would get saved and stop this. But no, broad is the road that leads to destruction. And we, the few, the downtrodden, the abused, the maligned, the falsely accused Christians that trod this earth are the only light that's here. And when the church is removed, the darkness will envelop the land like a flood. Come, Lord Jesus. Bring it. It's long overdue. It's long overdue. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of all this. I'm tired of the struggle. I got to work my butt off for measly pay. I thank God for his provision. I'm not talking about him. Rich people getting richer. Richmond north of Richmond. Nothing changes in Washington. Corruption abounds on and on and on and on. And career politicians padding their wallets, never having to experience an ounce of what you and I got to deal with. Sucks. I thank God he saved me, because if I wasn't saved, this existence would be pitiful. I have asked God many times, why did you have me born? I am like Job. It was stupid that I was brought into this world. Stupid. It was a waste of time. If I can be used by God, that is the only thing that makes it worth it. But no, most of the world's about, I got a house and I got me a trophy wife and I got a bank account and I'm in sports. Who cares? All that's going to be burned in the end. People wanting to be an activist all their life, when you're just fighting this. Congratulations, dum-dum. I wish that voice of Gazoo. Hello, dum-dum. What are you fighting against today? Oh, racism, huh? Are you sure it's not you that's racist? Gazoo, don't say that, but I will. Earthlings are so dumb. You go on and on about racism, and you don't live your life, and you're angry all the time. Stupid. I've watched this country turn around and be wagged by the tail. And I don't care what anybody says. It ain't right. I lost a job. My life was uncertain. I sold the deuce. I was getting ready to sell and just leave. But God had other plans. God won't let me leave. God hasn't orchestrated that yet. So what am I supposed to do? Do I just live my life and do my little puzzles and never say anything, get off YouTube and just try to get along with everybody? Does that work? Is that effective? I wouldn't have met Cruella. I wouldn't have met Baby Ghosty, who tried to take her life. I wouldn't have met Mob Rules, who was contemplating suicide. I wouldn't have met all these people. I wouldn't have met all these people that because of this channel, God had an appointment with them and God used me in spite of my broken, sorry, dysfunctional, messed up, disturbed self. At least I'm honest about it. And you got butthead clowns on there bragging about their shameful lifestyle, dogging me every turn. They don't have any content. They're the devil. I don't believe I'm God's gift to this planet. I'm not full of visions of grandeur. I'm well aware of myself. I ain't no hero and I ain't no star. I can't even make a profit on this channel while buffoons all over the internet are reeling in the dough. If you're buddies with Donald Trump like Benny Johnson, you can go and pay for a neon outline of your face. How gay. And people pay him to make a living. That ain't right. People won't pay for the truth. They'll pay for a girl to take off her clothes. They'll pay for a girl sitting here like this. Hi, guys. Hi. Hi. No content, just being a flake. Yeah, I belong here. I need to speak. Just like Jeremiah, they told him to shut up. He said, I can't. It's a fire in my bones. They threw him down a well. Guess who did it? The people who needed to hear the truth most. The black community don't love me. No, they don't. Because I'm not going to agree with their crap. I'm no danger to them. No danger to them at all. But guess what? The truth is always a danger to those that don't want to submit to it. Don't matter what color you are. Go back to Herod's wife, the illegitimate wife. Oh, that guy offended me, saying that Herod had no right to me. And she was bad attitude. King Herod was a mess. His daughter dancing provocatively. Ooh, got him all wound up. Up to half the kingdom, I'll give it to you. She goes back and asks her mother. One thing, the head of John the Baptist on a platter. That's how much people hate truth. And we got a lot of groups in America that talk about truth. They don't know what the meaning of the word truth is. And they're liars. And they encourage violence and strife and sow discord and want to play victim and are narcissistic and selfish and drama. Tell me that any of that is based on the fruit of the Holy Ghost. You got a group of people screaming racism when they're causing a lot of the problems. Hello? Can you hear me now? And I don't hate the blacks. I'm not racist. But I don't enjoy this. I don't get anything productive out of this. I'm sick of it. And I wish that I could have a voice in their community and say, I'm tired of it. Change. Y'all whine and fuss all the time. What are you doing to make America better? Activists. Let's roll that beautiful bean footage of Rosa Parks one more time. Let's bring all the kids to the school and show them being sprayed with fire hoses. Oh, that's productive. That'd be like if I had video of my mother abusing me. Let me watch that for the rest of my life. I don't want to see it. I want to move past what she did to me. These people want to live in the past and dredge up the muck in the harbor, not to allow deep vessels to come in, but to just stir it up. Even the fish has said, man, it's all polluted and we're leaving out. Your fresh waters become filthy and stagnant. Same old racial drumbeat go round. The racial carousel, up and down racism. Dun, 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 dun. Ride the racist horsey round and round. Everybody hates you because you're brown. La, 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 la. We're going to beat our drum. You got white people marrying black people. You got white people trying to imitate black people, imitate their music, dress like them. Yeah, whatever. You got blacks that are governors. You got blacks that have been president. You got blacks that have been this, that, and the other. And we're still beating the racial drum. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, bam. I remember seeing a Native American sitting at Virginia in the park, Virginia, Minnesota, with a drum. And he kept beating. I asked my mother for 50 cents. I asked my mother for 50 cents. I looked at my son who was a little boy and said, what is he saying? He said, he's saying, I asked my mother for 50 cents. Why is he beating the drum and saying that over and over again? By himself at the far end of the park under a gazebo. I love when I go to the flea market and there's a black woman dressed beautifully. She looks at me and her smile breaks out, and I look at her. I said, without any hesitation, I said, you are beautiful. I love your affect. I was just going to say the same thing to you. I love your style. And what's lost in all of this crap is there are black women. There were 3 black women selling out on the dirt outside the building their stuff at the flea market. They grinned around. Man, you look cool. You look like you know how to have fun. I said, well, I try. I don't have hatred in me towards an ethnic group. But I will say this, I have hatred for a belief system that is rooted in Satan anywhere in this country, anywhere in this world. I don't like the feeling I get in small town Utah. I've been there. I don't like Mormonism. I don't have to love Mormonism. I care about Mormons that they get saved, but I really don't want to live in a Mormon community. I do not want to be sent to Mormonville. I've been there. No thanks. I don't want to be in a feminist community. I don't want to be in a Karen community. I don't want to be in a I love my dog over everybody's rights community with barking, yapping dogs that insult my level of living in my own private closed door home. I want to be around well-adjusted people. Does that exist anymore? Huh? I doubt it. This is America. It's 2026. We're circling the train. Somebody's already pulled the handle. They're just watching. It's a lazy flush. It's just going round, all that poop and paper. Just. And I want to go, will you go down? My toilet in the other bathroom is one of those. You got to hold the thing down. It flushes, it works. But it makes the noise. Wow. The lie that the Democrats aren't racist is funny. It's humorous. They're the one keeping this shit alive. And I will lay it at their feet. The Democratic Party is responsible for controlling our education system. Hollywood and the who's who are all in cahoots. The media, all in cahoots. Social media, talk about a voting bloc, censoring people, controlling people. Every evil agenda is afraid of two things: this and one who brings it. Russia didn't like it. East Germany didn't like it. Democrats don't like it when a white boy tells the truth. A white boy, a conservative Christian white boy. We're enemy number one according to our media. We're the bad ones. We're evil. Wow. How did we get here? Cruella's got a boyfriend, so she's off limits. She's a beautiful woman. Oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And she's a happy woman. I love happy women. I like that I can go up to black women and tell them a compliment and they don't get offended and go to HR about it. There are things within the black community that are awesome. But when blacks surround themselves with this satanic dredging the past and activistic lies, it's not helping. It's not helping. The education system is not educating. It's manipulation. It's bullcrap. Let me have a classroom full of black people and I'll really tell them the truth. Let me. If they let me. Because they're not hearing it. That's why YouTube is the only chance we have to get out and proclaim the truth. Because they're not getting it in the school. They're not getting it with Hollywood. The Democrats do not know the meaning of truth. Remember Nancy Pelosi said, the Democratic Party more like Jesus. Have another beer, Nance. I'm suffering. You're suffering, all right. You can't even speak the word suffering in proper English. I'd love to run for politician. John Fetterman won. He showed up at the inauguration in basketball, gym shorts, and a damn hoodie. And Megyn Kelly goes off about Jeff Bezos' fiance, who was actually prettier than her, and she had chest envy, clearly. Megyn Kelly had chest envy. That's what that was all about. You use your platform to say you're basically jealous because I would have been looking at Bezos. Wow, nice little lacy bra there, a little peekaboo going on. Okay, then, you want to show them a look. Free show. No admission. Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Tucker Carlson. I used to respect all of them. I don't listen to them. I don't want to let Candace Owens needs to get a job. She's a millionaire, and she's going on and on about conspiracy theories. Seems to care more about Charlie Kirk than her own husband. You got to wonder when your wife is big and vocal out there, you know, like AOC and Ilhan Omar, these women, where are their husbands? You never hear about them. Never hear about their husbands. Guess who wears the pants? And people complain about me wearing feminine tops and stuff. You might want to address the women being men. Ilhan Omar is the greatest contradiction in the history of America. I'm a Muslim woman that embraced feminism because in a Muslim country, she will never be in political office and run her mouth the way she does. But she does it over here, and she says she's representing Islam. That's what's really hilarious. Islam is a danger to our whole American ideal. And it has no place in the United States. We shouldn't have allowed them to build a mosque because you are not allowed to build a Christian church in a Muslim nation. I tell you what, the hypocrisy is legendary. Truth is stranger than fiction. 144 likes, people. Some sustained views. Thank you for tuning into something. There's a lot of stuff on the internet you could have spent your time on. Thank you for giving me a minute of your time. I appreciate you. If you want to donate, Cash App, Pacific Ocean Asia 77, all one word. If you don't want to donate, you don't want to donate. I don't charge for memberships. I don't have an outline of my face in neon. My friend used AI to produce this, if I can find it. And I don't even have these available. I got my haircut in September. I said, that's funny. Ocean Heart doll with accessories. No. Feedback I'm getting on my channel. Look at my belly. Look at this. I'm 60 years old and just now I'm starting to get a tiny bit of a pot gut. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, people are giving me feedback saying, I hate the other channels. They're always promoting money and want me to pay. And as long as I can, I will broadcast. As long as I have a voice and God allows me, I will speak. And I believe the truth is free. You shouldn't have to pay for it. Jesus Christ paid the price for us, for blacks, for Asians, for Hispanics, for Caucasians. He sent his son to die, and he didn't charge you anything. He shed his blood, was nailed to a cross for you. You can't earn your way to heaven, people. You cannot do anything good enough to earn God's favor and pass. It's not like a school exam. You either pass or fail. If you are in Jesus Christ, if you are born again and you are saved, you are going to heaven. And eternal life starts the minute you put your faith and trust in him. God doesn't take that away from you. I'm weird. I'm different. I dress bizarre. But I believe in the truth, and I don't believe it's for sale. I don't want to be a politician. Too much temptation to conform. Too much people trying to get their hooks in you. Too many women that would love to see me fall. I recognize that. I want to be used by God. And if God's not going to use me, then take me out of this world, because there is no point in me going to a stupid thing every day, working my butt off in a sweaty warehouse, to earn some money, to pay some bills, to live, occupy space. If I'm not used by God, I am nothing. And that, folks, every Christian needs to keep that in your mind. Who cares about a basketball player? Who cares about you're the hottest looking woman that won the beauty pageant? If you are not being used by God, you are nothing. You being used by the devil. And that's why my marching orders don't come from the blacks, the whites, by Nancy Pelosi, by our Constitution. They come from the Almighty God. Tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Preach the truth in season, out of season, for the time will come when men will not endure or put up with sound doctrine. Preach about the social issues. That's what John Wesley did, who started the Methodist Church. That's what the great preachers back in truth, and souls got saved. If we're not leading people to the cross, we're leading them to hell. Where are you? Get off the fence. African American people, choose you this day whom you will serve, Satan or Christ. White people, make your choice, Satan or Christ. Asians, Hispanics. That is the hokey pokey. That is what it's all about. You put your right foot in, you put your faith in God, he gives you joy, and you shake it all about. Okay? Gotta go. Thank you for your attention. Like and subscribe if you feel so inclined. The truth is in short supply. I don't look like everybody else. I don't carry myself like everybody else. Some people have a problem with that. But this is unvarnished. No veneers, the real deal. You will not find another channel like this anywhere in cyber world. God made me unique, and I thank him for that. Stop being like everybody else. Be who God called you to be. Remember what Mr. Rogers said? There is only one you. Stop being like everybody else. Stop dressing like a Nike advertisement. Stop buying capris and dress barn clothes and looking like everybody else. Stop trying to fit it. You're not walking in the Holy Spirit when you're trying to fit in. You better be turning your world upside down. Don't even try to be like me. You're not called to be Michael. God has gifts, and he has callings for all of us. The gift and calling he has for you may differ from mine. Use it. If you don't, you abuse it. We don't need to wait for a Martin Luther King or anybody else. Allow God to give you the freedom to explore you, to be who you are, to find out what your calling is, and go with it. The world is hungry for somebody to finally break the traditional mold. And sadly, the world is being groomed to embrace one who will, and he'll be called the Antichrist. We Christians got to stop being like the other Christians. They're not getting it. Wearing Sunday best and playing this little game has not worked. Celebrate diversity by being diverse. Be you and be different, and stop copycatting. Be used by God or don't be used at all. When you are a Christian, you are not a neutral agent. You are an ambassador. You are the salt of the earth. You have the light of God. You don't put it under a bushel. And most Christians, they want to go home and watch Hallmark. They want to get along with their neighbors. They don't want anything bad to happen to them, and they want everything to be perfect. They are not reaching the world, people. That's a form of narcissism. If you want peace and safety, and you don't want no trouble, do not imitate me. If you want to be used by God, expect fire, expect trouble, expect hatred, expect persecution. I would challenge you to answer me one question, American Christians that are worried about your comfort zone. Imagine for a second this event right here. Let's go back. Let's go to Acts chapter 9, okay? Now Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked for letters from him to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belonging to the way, both men and women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. And it came about that as he journeyed, he was approaching Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. And he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, but rise and enter the city, and it shall be told you what you must do. And the men who traveled with him stood speechless, hearing the voice, but seeing no one. And Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. And leading him by the hand, they brought him into Damascus. Does God have to blind the community of the black people to wake them up about the truth? Does God have to blind you to wake you up about the truth? Anybody else? Do you have to be that stubborn? The world is going to hell. And sometimes we're fussing about the tree, and we're missing the wild bears on the other side that are going to come out and attack us by that tree. You really think politics is going to solve the problems in this country? You don't know the God of the Bible. And I've said it to the Trump supporters. I supported Trump, but there's some MAGA cult, and that needs to stop too. We're not here to make America great. We're here to point to the majesty of God, and we're supposed to be the priesthood of believers, and we're supposed to go out to this world and tell them the truth, whether they like us or not. You don't be obnoxious. You start off with witness by working hard, by being kind, by being uniquely you. If you have an opening, use it. If you don't, hold your peace. Stop fearing the black community. Stop fearing the Democrats. Stop fearing drug dealers and gangsters and people that want to tell you how impressively tough they are. Look them in the eye and smile and say, bro, I got the best defense system in the world, and it ain't me. My father, he's got my life in his hands. Do you know my father? Let me tell you about him. A skinny preacher from Pennsylvania years ago felt a burden to go to New York City, of all places. The Mau Maus were a vicious gang, robbing women in Central Park, killing them, stealing their purses. David Wilkerson showed up and walked right into the den of iniquity in a gang. And because of God's calling on his life, he reached Nicky Cruz, the leader of the Mau Maus. One tough cookie. He decided to hold a crusade, David Wilkerson. They rented out a theater, and then people came, and the girls that were all involved with these gang leaders, they'd come outside this arena and they'd say, if you go in there, you're not getting any more of this. They were pulling up their shirts and everything. This was the 60s. Nicky Cruz got saved because God used that skinny white man to break through some Puerto Rican bad ASSs. Let me say something. If God wants to use me in the middle of Africa, he can. Or Puerto Rico or anywhere. I'm not limited to whites. If God wants to use me somewhere, bring it. I will go. If somebody said, Michael, we want to hear you in Iran, I'd be like, Iran? I'd be scared. But I'm going. You see, if you're in the will of God, you're in the safest place. Let the devil roar. Let him make all his noise and beat on his drums and have people having you scared. That's what he wants. The Bible tells us over and over again, fear not. The only thing we should fear is when we're wrong. We're living wrong. We should have fear. And if we confess our sins and keep short accounts with God when you do sin, pony up. You're rude to somebody, go up and say, I'm sorry, I was a jerk to you. Swallow your dang pride and be what Christ wants you to be. One thing I've noticed in you is nobody knows how to say I'm sorry anymore. It's ridiculous. We are supposed to be different. We are supposed to be different. I wish I could leave. I'd rather go to another country to be used than do what I'm doing now. Kind of tired of working in a hot, sweaty. But I also say, but the owner and the president's a Christian and he hired me. You provided, God, thank you. Thank you that my Christian brother gave me a job there. There's lots of jobs out there, but this is Augusta. I'm hireable, but not in this world over here. They're not hiring me. They're hiring their own. Then they're getting fired and failing drug tests, but they'll still keep hiring them. This is a stacked deck over here. But God will establish you where he wants you. People say, why don't you get out there? As soon as God makes that clear, not before. I don't hate it here. There's worse places. At least I don't live in the ghetto in Baltimore. No thanks. At least I don't live in Southside Chicago. What if God called you to this community center in Southside Chicago and all black and you had to speak to them? I'd be like, I don't know about that. But if clearly God opened doors, I'm going in. How willing are you to get out of your comfort zone and speak the truth? What if some black church here said, we don't agree with everything, Mike, but we like your boldness. Will you come and visit us? We'd like to talk to you. Yes, I would. Mob Rules was invited to a mostly black church. He and his wife went. Are we willing to put our money where our mouth is and step out? I've noticed down here, a lot of the blacks only listen to their music, talk about their issues, talk about their food and their sports and their stars. Boring! This is a big world. I'm glad everybody isn't just like me. I've often been attracted to women that are more exotic and different than me because God made me that way. I want to point to one. Forgive me, ladies, this is no slight on any of you. Cruella, thank you for coming to my channel and supporting it. Not financially, but just by being here. I appreciate that. To the women who are struggling with health issues, thank you for being honest. Thank you that we can pray for you. To the men who come out here and support the channel, thank you. I may not say it a lot, but I appreciate you too. To the gays and the transgenders that may not agree with everything I say, but at least come to listen, thank you. At least you're hearing something you're not used to hearing. Too many Christians want a comfortable little life. If we believe the truth, how far are we willing to go to take it? Where will we go to take it? I'm not a Dr. King. That's not my ambition. I'm not David Wilkerson. I really don't want to go into the hood and try to witness to people. I don't believe that that's my calling. No. But guess what? Whatever God's plan is, he's preparing me for it. We got people on this channel from the UK, Australia, Philippines, Scotland, Ireland. Did I say UK? New Zealand, Fiji, the Caribbean, Hawaii, California, Wyoming recently, Dakota, Montana, Washington. Nobody from Idaho yet. I think we got Tiny Mothers from Utah. I believe that all 50 states should be on this channel. A lot of people from Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, even New England and Maine and Florida. I don't think we have anybody from Louisiana. We got some Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas recently, lots from Texas, one or two from Arizona. And I think we finally got somebody the other day from New Mexico. It's nice to come to a channel where it's not all about money and commercials and advertisements. And for many years, I thought I have no value. I only have value as God determines value. Our secular world determines value by level of success monetarily and stardom. God doesn't rate things that way. LeBron ain't promoting the gospel of Jesus Christ. He's promoting himself, his lifestyle, and it's sad. All the to-do about sports is sinful. It really is. I'm not against people watching game, but the money that they're making, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And the Bible says, in the last days, perilous times shall come. Men shall be lovers of their own selves, boastful, proud, arrogant, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Man, I got people on YouTube making a full-time living off of criticizing me, hating. And a lot of people that come on here complaining about the clothes I'm wearing, they're not preaching the gospel. They're not sharing the word. They don't have a channel. They just come on here to leave stupid comments. And I'm laughing. I'm like, well, you know what? I do have my problems, but I'm boldly, without any apologies, reading right out of this. I'm not making it walk on all fours. And that's why people like to come here. They're going, man, this guy's real. They've even said, I don't agree with everything, but I love listening. That's awesome. That right there, too many churches, the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, are only going to reach that kind of people. I'm diverse. When I was in high school, before I was saved, it was said, there was a guy that was kind of a nerd, Jeff Rhodes. He said, how is it that you're able to, all the people here respect you? I said, I don't know. He said, even the smokers respect you, and the football players, and you know, when I got saved, I tried to be like what they wanted me to be in the church. I found a lot of self-righteousness and judgment, and I don't wear suits and ties. I get hot easy, and I'm in the South. If I could wear this to work, I would. It's too hot to be all clothed up. I'm the kind of guy that needs to run the surf shack down on the beach. Be shirtless, wear my surf shorts and flip-flops. Hey guys, how you doing? Which board do you want to rent today? I would be perfect at that. Or drive the golf cart from the hotel down to the beach in Waikiki. I would love that. I'm not a suit and tie guy, and I never will be. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders was a fail. Wasn't until he's an old man he came up with his KFC. Abraham Lincoln, fail at this, that. Finally became a president, older. And I noticed in my life, I feel like God's using me more now, older than I was when I was first in Christ. Call it aging like a fine wine. Maybe, I don't know. If God isn't going to use me, then let's quit this. I was blessed to live in Hong Kong. And God was merciful to allow me to make my choices to run into sin and be with a lot of women over the years. And he didn't treat me as my sins deserve. But like Solomon, I used that as an opportunity to learn. The eye never has enough of seeing, the ear never enough of her hearing. I mean, let's be honest. Somebody comes up and says, I got scoop. Scoop? Do tell. We like scoop, don't we? And there's always another pretty woman to walk by to make us go, like a typewriter. Ding! Don't do that, Michael. The flash. Ding! It all makes me realize I'm still human. I know he saved me because I wouldn't be talking about this if I weren't. I wouldn't understand it if I weren't. But imagine for a second if Paul were to be like today's American Christian men and women. Close your eyes and picture this scene. Saul gets converted. God says, I will show you what you need to do when you get to Damascus. Saul goes down there and he just kind of says, well, yeah, I'm a Christian. I don't want to rock the boat. Goes and disappears back in his tent-making world. What would we be missing? Let's share what we would be missing. If Paul did not respond to the call, if Paul had just chosen a careful little life, we wouldn't have the following books: Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, I believe. Well, that's a lot of books. And those books have some deep theological meat in them. So when you turn your light down and try to get rid of the salt in your life, what are you doing? Somebody's being affected by that negatively. Paul went to prison. He didn't go to work and get off and preach. He went to prison. And he wrote most of the epistles right there. How many people would write successful books from prison that you've read today? Get me now? You want to be used by God? He can do it from a prison cell. He can do it from Disgusta, Georgia. I remember I was on a bus in Akron, black driver. And I said, we're looking at maybe moving to Erie. Erie, Pennsylvania? I said, yeah. He said, Dad, that's Mistake by the Lake. He called Erie the Mistake by the Lake. Life is hard. The devotion talked about it this morning. And even though we try as Christians to glorify God, today's devotion says this: now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. Joy in Jesus. Do you ever long for something you see glimpses of but can't quite grasp? C.S. Lewis longed for joy. He wrote, our longing to be reunited with something in the universe from which we now feel cut off, to be on the inside of some door which we always have seen from the outside, is the truest index of our real situation. And to be at last summoned inside would be the healing of that old ache. The whole man is to drink joy from the fountain of joy. Lewis writes of the joy we'll experience in full when we see Jesus face to face. As believers in Jesus, we have the joy of Christ through our relationship with him and the work of his Spirit inside us. But sadly, our joy is hampered by sin and death, the forces of evil, and the world's brokenness. Paul writes, now we see only reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. 1 Corinthians 13:12. In verse 10, Paul talks of the coming completeness. That is when we'll know and experience joy fully because we're with Jesus. Although we wait expectantly for that day, he gives us a small foretaste now of the overwhelming, unhindered joy of heaven. What do you think it will be like to see Jesus? What do you most look forward to in heaven? Heavenly Father, thank you for the moments of joy I experience here on earth. I'm anticipating the day when I can know it in full. The author here of this Daily Bread, which was Allison Kita, admits because we live in a broken world, it affects us. There's a false sense in our country today of, even among Christians, the ones that are doing very well materially. You know, they always come in, hi, how you doing today? You know, everything just seems to be. The president of the company, I thought, man, he bought a new Tesla, he's rich. He always comes up, hey, Michael, how are you? And I always answer him sincerely. Yesterday, I said, how are you? He goes, well, all right, I said, how's your son? He just had a newborn. And he said, I'm tired. He said, the kid's keeping us awake. He'll lay there like this, and he'll suddenly, accidentally, have a reflex and hit himself in the face, and it scares him, and he'll wake up crying. And they got the bassinet right by the bed. And I could tell by looking at my president's face, he's not getting to sleep. And I was reminded, true Christians suffer. Christians that don't suffer are probably walking in disobedience or hiding their light so as not to offend it. I'm going to tell you something. If you are a child of God, you're automatically offensive to those that don't want the truth. So stop. Either live for God or live for Satan and quit riding the fence. If you're not going to be bold, I don't expect everybody to be like me, but if you're going to hide your faith and put it under a bushel, why would you do that? Why are you ashamed that the very truth that saved you, gave you eternal life, forgiveness of your sins? Why? Why do we do that? Why are we afraid of what the world thinks? I mean, I wouldn't exactly walk into an all-black club and say, hey, all Jesus saved you. I'm not going to walk in there and do that. But what if they all turned and looked at me and said, are you one of those Christians? Yes, I'm not one of those Christians, but I am a Christian. We know the truth. We know the only God. Why are we afraid of that? Why do we shrink back from the society? Why? Because the devil and your flesh. Be careful. Bible talks about don't be ashamed of God. He wasn't ashamed of me and all my ridiculousness. Why would we be ashamed to say who we are and who we belong to? You know? You got preachers right here that appoint themselves to ministry. They're not called by God. They start churches and got a following. They're not changing a thing. I mean, I got a problem with the fact that on Sunday morning, you got black churches and white churches. Some of those blacks need to start listening to some whites. And some of those whites need to start listening to some of the blacks. Sunday's still segregated. The most segregated time in America is week. That ain't right. The Bible tells us go preach the gospel to every creature. Now, I'll tell you what, it's hard to reach some people. I have never been successful at reaching a Mormon, a Jehovah's Witness, or a black person for Christ. Ever. That's okay. Planting seeds is good. Thank you for listening. It's hump day. Are you making a difference in your world? For the glory of God. A lot of you see me working on my house and you talk about it. That's all awesome. But I was thinking yesterday, we as Christians spend more time talking about over and over temporal things, our house, our car, looks, basketball, football achievements, whatever. You know, in heaven, I will not be talking about my house, my deuce, my truck. If I have a wife, that will not even be part of the arena. We will be talking about the score of the game. Let that soak in. We spend more time on the temporal than we do the eternal, if we're honest. I do, you do, we all do. Why is that? Because we're on this earth. Sometimes the horizontal gets in the way of the vertical. And even when we embrace Christ, our life is supposed to be the shape of the cross. We reach out horizontally to people and vertically to God. Think about it. I had a pastor in Duluth years ago, one of the better ones I've ever had. And he admitted it, thank God, and he caught himself. And he was in a hard little Minnesota Baptist church, and the men there always want to talk about snowmobiling. You know, guys get into their little thing, and that's all they talk about. Pastor bought a trailer, bought 2 snowmobiles, one for he and his wife, went snowmobiling with the guys. My friends and I suddenly noticed that everybody was talking about snowmobiling during Sunday school. It got worse and worse. One by one, we left the church and went to other churches. And Pastor finally admitted, he said, well, I tried to get in with the guys and tried to find a way to relate. And they were pulling me into their world, and I wasn't pulling them into Christ's world. He went on later to be preaching at Prince Edward Island, which, oh my gosh, I would love to live on Prince Edward Island. The Maritimes intrigue me. I wish I could live up there. I'll always miss the Great Lakes. I don't miss those cold winters because it affects me. You would see a different person. If I was to move up there and do videos, you would see a different person. The weather has an impact on us. As much as I don't like this heat, vitamin D and the sunshine is good for us. It really is. We were made to receive the light, if you think about it. But God has his plan, his will. What do we say? Not my will, but thine be done. Jesus said it. If it is possible, let this cup pass. Jesus didn't want to go to the cross. Who would? Oh, this is fun. What are you doing today? I'm going to get crucified, man. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, they're going to drive these spikes in my head. Oh, yeah, it's going to be a good time. They're going to ram a crown of thorns in my head and hit me with a purple robe on. Oh, it's going to be a fun night tonight. Jesus said, if it's possible, let this cup pass. Yet not my will. We're supposed to be the same. And let's be honest, we maneuver and we manipulate our will right into it, don't we? Do you want to be used of God? You're going to be emptied of you. You're going to be emptied, broken. It's going to happen. That's why as I get older, I realize the value. Just take one day at a time. One day. You have right now. Don't worry about tomorrow. The Bible tells us it. Don't worry about tomorrow. For each day has enough troubles of its own. Do you notice that? And you meet more and more Christians that are answering like corporate people in America. I'm doing well. They're pursuing the American dream and the money and the toys and the Yeah. Fun, huh? Fun. Pursue God. There's days you'll be off of it. There's days you're going to struggle. It's okay to go to God and say, God, I'm sorry. I'm not feeling it today. We have a wrong vision of prayer. Maybe the word prayer shouldn't be used. Maybe we should say, why don't you just converse with God? Like women and people will converse with me on the phone through Discord. Do the same thing with God. I wonder if God had a phone, if women would text him. Can you imagine all the women going, God? Could you imagine that? Would they text him? We'll talk to everybody, but do we talk to God? I would laugh my butt off if I was sitting in a room with a bunch of adults and I heard one, oh my gosh, God just texted me. Really? Can you share us what the text says? I'm kind of embarrassed. Get off your phone and get on your knees. Wouldn't that be fun? Girl gets a text from a number she doesn't recognize. Who is this? I am. You are who? I am. Don't be harassing me. Who is this? I said, I am. Text your friend, oh my gosh, somebody's texting me saying it's I am. What does that mean? Friend texts back, says, that word I am is the way God called himself. Maybe you ought to answer and say, okay, God, yes. Wouldn't that be fun? I got a text message from Jesus. He told me I'm spending too much time on my phone. Thank you, folks. Be safe.